Good morning, everyone. This is Mike Mooney, the owner of the I Am Unfiltered page and the book I Am Unfiltered, which is on sale now at www.iamunfiltered.com. I just wanted to do something a little different today. I'm going to teach an entire concept from start to finish in video format. And it's kind of a cool thing. I hope you follow along with me. It's kind of a little bit complex in the beginning, and then I'm going to give examples and straighten it out for you. The principle that I want to teach is that whenever you're talking about a thing, any given thing, whatever that may be, the thing is not the same as the witnesses of the thing. So that's the principle. A thing is not the same as the witnesses of the thing. That seems obvious. However, it's not entirely obvious. Let me explain why. So think of any given object. Like, let's just imagine there's nothing in in this box, right? The box is there, but nothing in it. It's a vacuum. And then you put a ball inside the box, and you're staring at this ball. There's nothing around it. It's completely black. It's completely void of anything. Now, there is the ball, and then there are three different witnesses of the ball. And I'm using the word witness for a specific reason, primarily because it's a very legal term. It's also a very scriptural term. Multiple scriptures, including the Torah and the Bible, the Holy Bible, Christian Bible, use this word. And the reason is because witnessing a thing is part of the human experience, because we have no way of being the thing. All right, so keep following me here. I know some of this sounds a little bit weird and a little bit maybe abstract, and it is kind of. So you got that ball in that box. You're looking at the ball and you're visualizing. You can see it, right? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to probably describe this ball. You're going to start saying, okay, it's round and it's blue and it's, it seems like if I touch it, it might be soft or like squeezable. Maybe it's one of those balls that kids play dodgeball with, and then, it kind of stings when it hits you. That's the ball that's in my head. And so now you've got witness number one. There's the thing, and then there's my description of the thing. All right. So the first witness, we'll just say, I don't think an order here matters, but the first witness is that I'm describing the thing. Then you have the action of the thing. So, and that's still part of observation, technically, because without observation, then there's no point to there being a ball. But the ball has its action. It has the things that it does, right? So if the ball were to bounce around inside the box, then you have the effect, and that's the right word, not just action, but the effect of the ball, which is that it creates disturbance, it creates movement, or it has the ability to move. So there's the effect of the thing, and then there's the description of the thing. And then the third witness is the mathematical reality of the thing, or the scientific reality of the thing. And so let me explain that for a second. So essentially, any given thing has a mathematical or scientific construct. So using the ball as our example, you could say that ball, it's a sphere, which we know it has a volume. There's an equation that describes that. We know that it has a circumference, so there's math that describes that. We know that it's made of something, some chemical, so that chemical has a chemical structure. And so those three things add up to the three witnesses of the reality of the thing. So stay with me. I know this might seem super simple or it might seem totally confusing depending on your study of physics, but this is relevant to our lives in a big way, because you could know all the chemical structure, you could know all the mathematical formulas that make up the thing. Like, let's say light, for example. We know that there's a mathematic formula for light, and really for all energy. So you could know that. You could see the effect of the thing. Let's say the ball knocks something over, so you can see the effect of the ball. You could describe the ball to someone. There really is no more witness of the ball. The ball has those three things: mathematical, or scientific, which is the foundation, the thing that makes the ball the ball. You have the description or the narrative of the ball, and you have the effect of the ball itself. And none of those three things are actually the ball. Only the ball is the ball. So, hopefully I haven't lost you here, but why is this important? Why does this matter? And the reason it matters is because it applies directly to our physical or mental, intellectual, cognitive, and physical, actual, real understanding of God and relationship with God. Because God is God. Now, he has just like the ball, he has three witnesses. He has the narrative of him, which is found in the way we talk about him. It's also found in Scripture. Sort of the human historical experience with God is the narrative of God. Some of it's correct, some of it's incorrect, and that's the nature of narrative, is that it's highly subjective and oftentimes misleading from what the object is, right? So someone can describe the ball totally differently than somebody else in the same room based on environment, based on perception, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. And then God has, so he has his narrative of him. Then he has the effect of him. We can see that all around us. Some people don't attribute it to him, but we can see the effect. We see creation. We can feel the effect of God if we're sensitive to it, if we understand what that means. And some people don't attribute the effect of God to God, which is fine, but also it's inaccurate, and that's an unfortunate reality that, if the ball knocks over a lamp and you say, well, the lamp fell over, but the ball had nothing to do with it, that's just inaccurate. It doesn't mean that the ball didn't do it. It just means that you're not describing it that way, so that you can see the effect of God. And then God has a makeup, and this is what my next book is going to be about largely, is the makeup of God. What makes God at the scientific, chemical, mathematical level? What is he? Now, there's no way I'm going to be able to prove any of that, because if I could, then I would be the greatest theologian, scholar in the world, and in the history of the world, and I would end up being a trillionaire and changing the lives of billions of people. Well, at least we'd pray for that. But I don't think there's a way to mathematically prove him. But I do think that there is some way to describe the construct of who he is, which I'll talk about later. So I'll say it this way, in very, very short terms. I think the makeup of God is or the identity of God at the mathematical or scientific level is something along the lines of energy, consciousness, sentience, in the form of what I call culture, policies, and rules. So you have these three things, which are the things you do not do, the things you do, and the combination of those, the matrix of those, that creates who you are. So I do think that there is an understandable construct of what makes God, uniquely himself. And then, of course, like I talked about, the narrative and the effect of God. Those are the three witnesses of the reality of God. But none of those three things are God. And so God, just like the ball, can can be skewed in those three witnesses, misunderstood, misrepresented, but God is not actually any of those three things. He is God. He is. And that's what he even says in Scripture, I am. And so we try to have a narrative for God, and we try to understand the effects of him. And so understanding this principle of the thing and then the witnesses of the thing is very important. And here's why. Because what I really want to talk about 10 minutes later is I really want to say, I want people to understand that, I'm going to use the analogy of the sun. Your perception of the sun does not dictate the sun in any way. So the sun is the sun, and we know what it is. We know that it's a big chemical reaction in space, and it is virtually unchanging, especially in the course of 1,000 lifetimes. It's virtually unchanged. Obviously, it's constantly interacting with our solar system, and there are solar flares, and there's all kinds of stuff going on. But depending on where you are, your perception of the sun is vastly different. You could be standing on a glacier, on one of the poles, literally just like a vast icy wasteland of freezing death, and the sun is there just mocking you while you freeze in sub-zero temperatures. At that point, it's just this yellow ball in the sky that's making it hard to keep your eyes open. Or you could be standing on the equator and just sweating your ever-loving butt off, and mosquitoes tearing you limb from limb, and you're under the canopy, so the sun is lighting everything, but you can't really see it directly, and so the sun has a very different effect, right? Obviously, the sun itself hasn't changed, but your environment has, and I can promise you that the two complaints we're getting from the person in the Arctic and the person in the Ecuadorian rainforest are very different complaints about the exact same object. The math hasn't changed. The effect has, and the narrative has. So 2 out of the 3 witnesses are skewed because of perception based on environment. Now, I could play this out 100 different ways. You could be underwater. You could be in a cave. You could be on the dark side of the moon. There's 1,000 different things that will affect your witness of, your perception of, and your narrative of, and your witness of the effect of the thing, the sun, in this case. So hopefully that's making sense, this analogy of the sun and perception of the sun based on environment. Why is that important? And most of you are probably beating me to this already, but I'm going to draw it out because I think it's really important. There are so many people, I think, in the world who are trying to figure out their relationship to this, let's just call it the sun, for the sake of the analogy. And they're like, let's say some people are so, their life is so uncomfortable that they're not even aware, they don't even care that there's a sun, or what is it doing to me? And the answer is obviously sustaining your life, right? Because without it, we're dead. But I live in a place where the sun is creating a jungle effect, and so I'm uncomfortable. Now, if I get to a more comfortable place, am I going to necessarily care about the sun? No, not necessarily. You have to actually actively want to understand the sun. Doesn't matter if you live in an Arctic environment, the sun's not doing much for you, so you don't really care about the sun. But without it, you're dead. Now this analogy has been used a trillion times in religion, I think. But I want to bring us back to the principle of the thing that I started with, which is the idea of the 3 witnesses. So with God in your life, if you're not aware of who he is based on what he's made of, which you may not be, I wasn't until I started just kind of exploring this concept, then you're looking at really 2 things: narrative from other people and the effect of him on your life. And if you are looking at your life and saying, well, his effect is either bad or negligible or unnoticeable or indifferent, then of course you don't have an actual relationship with him. The witnesses of him are generally what draw us to him, right? Either the other people's narrative of him is appealing in some cases, or the effect of him in our lives is appealing, so we want to get to know him. And that comes down to perception. If we know, back to the sun, if we know the sun is the thing that's keeping us alive, but it's also making us pretty uncomfortable, then the natural inclination is, well, I want to get comfortable. So God, help me get comfortable, and then I'll start to figure out who you are. And I think this part of my narrative, one of the realities of God is that he's less concerned with your comfort and more concerned with you. He's less concerned with putting you in California where it's gorgeous, and more concerned with, let's figure out how to make you the best you where you are. Let's figure out how to genuinely experience love together where you are. We can change your circumstances later if need be, but we've got to start somewhere. And the whole message of especially Jesus is, look inside you and let's find peace. Let's find hope. Let's find love. Let's find faith. Let's find the ability to make change. And then we can start to address, once we've identified those things and engaged those things, then we can start to address, who am I and why am I here? And then we can start to address, how can I impact the environment in which I live? So I'm going to stop the video here because I think we're coming up on like 25 minutes. I hope this all made sense. I hope you have questions, and if you do, please reach out to me, email, or Facebook, or whatever. iamunfilteredbook@gmail.com, www.iamunfiltered.com to purchase the book. And I think this concept hopefully is going to help somebody just start to analyze their own relationship with God, or lack of one. And it's okay if you don't have a relationship with God of any kind. When I say relationship, I mean if you're not having interaction in a way that makes you aware that there's a supernatural God, that's okay. But you can have that. I can promise you can have that. It just comes down to, do you want to or not? And if the answer is no, I think that's okay. I don't think that God hates you if you don't want that. But I think you have to be careful, because pretending there's no sun is kind of childish, right? So you to some degree, you want to know what is the essence of things? What is the underpinning of reality? Who is responsible for this, if anything, if anyone? And if you just toss your hands up and say it's all a product of chance, that's a lot of faith involved in that too. You might ask yourself, why? Or am I willing to just toss everything up to chance and say, I think luck is more, or chance or fate is more likely than a sentient creator? Why do I want to think that? Do I want to think that because it's easier? Do I want to think that because it makes me feel like a part of a community of people who think that? And none of those are wrong answers. You got to start somewhere. But introspection is key. My whole goal is that I want you to experience life and happiness and contentment and peace in the best way possible. And the best thing I can do is help people think, and help people think deeply and question things, and then come up with answers, and then question the answers. So anyway, I appreciate your time. Thanks for listening. Share this video with somebody who might be needing a little bit of analysis in their life, or a little bit of hope, or a little bit of just maybe some thinking that's not Kardashian level thinking. No offense to the Kardashians, but whew. Anyway, guys, have a great week, and we'll talk to you real soon.